Before this video starts, I was originally going to make a video doing this specific topic where I was going to talk about Aquaman 2, half the video, and then talk about the DCEU as a whole, but I was not very satisfied with that video, and plus I didn't feel as passionate about Aquaman 2 as I wanted to. But I'm much more passionate about this one, and so let's go ahead and begin this video essay, and hopefully you guys enjoy. The end of an era. The DCEU is finally coming to a close, with the ending being Aquaman 2. Now, Aquaman 2 has very mixed reactions across the board, mostly on the negative side, but that's actually been a majority of the DCEU movies coming out this year. Shazam did not get very good reviews. The Flash was a major disappointment to a lot of people, even though I personally thought it was a fun movie, but still had a bunch of issues that it could have worked out. And Aquaman 2, well, that also had many issues as well. Blue Beetle was solid enough. Needless to say, this year was not a very good year for DC movies in general, and I think a lot of it has to also do with the fact that people know that this universe is coming to an end, but did it ever truly begin? I personally believe that the DCEU actually never even got started, and that's due to a multitude of factors that happened. Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder is a very interesting director because I actually really did like Man of Steel a lot, personally, as a Elseworlds Superman story. But after looking at a lot of Superman material and kind of understanding the character and actually having a bit more of appreciation for him than I have my entire life, I can say that it's not the Superman that everyone's going to be used to, and it's also not the Superman that I think would be ideal for a multitude of audiences. He didn't really capture the essence of Superman well in that movie. He captured the visual aspect very well and gave us some of the best Superman action scenes, flight scenes, and one of the best suits of all time, but the essence of the character he did not really nail super well if you're looking at it. And even though I praise the visuals, his visual style does not work for every character, neither does his darker tone that he wanted to do for this universe. Characters like Batman, his style works very well for, as we saw with Ben Affleck's Batman. I mean, a lot of people praise him still to this day, minus the killing part. However, for characters like Wonder Woman, Superman, even characters like the Flash, his visual style just does not work out for characters that are meant to be a little bit more colorful. So he doesn't know how to do that proper balance, and also the studio interference, trying to throw everything together as quick as possible and catch up with Marvel, made this universe convoluted from the start. Once it hit Batman vs. Superman, it just completely went downhill from that point. No vision. It was almost like after DC was losing money from these DCEU movies, they were starting to panic. And when Aquaman came out, that's when everything truly started becoming convoluted. There was no true vision. You look at everything after that point, and every movie started having its own tone. None of them really felt connected. Shazam really didn't feel connected to everything else. Aquaman really didn't feel connected to everything else. And even movies like Black Adam going further, that even tried to further the difference in the DCEU going forward too. Everything was very convoluted and nothing really meshed well. Kept changing ideas of what directions they wanted to go in. They changed who was going to be running things behind the scenes multiple times. Introduced the ideas of having Supergirl being the lead with Batgirl, and then having whole multiverses cross paths with Michael Keaton Batman becoming the main Batman and getting rid of Ben Affleck, getting rid of Henry Cavill, bringing back Henry Cavill. They didn't know what they wanted to do. And at this point, they were panicking. They couldn't figure out what they wanted to do, and they just did not have a very clear vision. And that's why the franchise really was not successful, was because there was no clear vision and they never stuck true to their guns. Overhated. Even though the DCEU has a ton of problems, I don't think it deserved all the hate that it's gotten. And there's many things to like about the DCEU. It gave us really fun moments and entertaining ideas and some interesting concepts along the way. Even Zack Snyder's Justice League, even though that would not have worked in the theaters, I do think that it itself was still a pretty good movie. And it does have me interested to see what his vision could have looked like going forward had he been allowed to create. I have agreed with all the choices he made, not necessarily, but it still has that intrigue there. Or even Andy Muschietti's The Flash, if they actually had proper time and none of the Ezra Miller controversy going on and whatever crimes Ezra Miller was committing, what would the film have been like? Because I had a fun time with the film, but could it have been even better if it was tampered with last minute, or the visual effects were actually completed? I mean, even in terms of action scenes, in terms of action, I think the DCEU has some fantastic action scenes in their movies. Specifically with their Batman, Ben Affleck's Batman action scenes were some of the best, including Henry Cavill's Superman. And from a visual style, I think all the films visually had something unique to each of them. Whether they worked or not, that's debatable, but they were at least unique in their own way. James Gunn. I think that we can look back at the DCEU with fondness, looking at that as the experimental phase of DC, because the DCEU felt very experimental in all of its movies. They didn't really know what they wanted to do, and everything felt very experimental. And we can appreciate that for what it was. But with James Gunn stepping in, it's going to be interesting to see what he does from this point on. Rebooting the franchise, starting off with Superman Legacy, starting off with another Superman movie, believe it or not. Let's see how this DC universe goes, and who knows, maybe this might actually end up being something that actually has a clear vision, something that maybe everybody might enjoy a bit more. And with Guardians of the Galaxy and even the Suicide Squad, those movies, I really enjoyed those, and a lot of people seem to have too. I think that we might be in store for something very special here. And James Gunn is a very die-hard comic book fan, and I think that we all know that nobody makes comic book movies quite like a comic book fan.